All righty, folks, thanks for coming back here. It's my pleasure to introduce Megan Akamasi, Keith Johnson, Paul Needleman, and Lee Sheldon. Now, you met Keith earlier today, but let me tell you a little bit about Megan Akamasi. She's a Group Vice President of Chemicals at Norfolk Southern, and she's also the chair of our Executive Advisory Board for the Center for Business Analytics. Paul Needleman is a Principal Solutions Architect at Snowflake, and Lee Sheldon is the AI and Data Partner at Guidehouse, one of our sponsors out there in the lobby, as is Norfolk Southern. So please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you.
So,
We have one extra chair for our AI assistant.
let's just do it there.
Help us. All right. Thank you for the introduction, Jay, and it's a pleasure to be here again. I thought we would start by just having brief introductions. We had a little bit of a rehearsal last week, and I know that the time is going to fly. So I wanted everybody to be able to give a little bit of a, let's call it 30 seconds about your background and what brings you here to our 4th annual Day for Data. Keith, why don't you start?
Well, I gave a presentation earlier, so that's why I'm here. Long history in technology, starting with nuclear engineering, which is now coming back, and then a lot of analytics stuff. And what was the other question?
What brings you here? Do you have an affiliation with Virginia Tech?
Well, I'm on the board of the Center for Business Analytics, and I have a daughter who's a Hokie, who just graduated a few years ago. And I got a master's degree here as well, way back. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Lee, how about yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Lee Sheldon. I'm a partner at Guidehouse, leading AI and data. I'm also really proud to say that I am a Hokie as well, and it is the perfect time of year that we're having this session, as it was an absolutely beautiful drive coming in from Lynchburg, Virginia. And I'm honored to be here speaking with individuals that are preparing themselves to enter the new workforce and share some lessons learned and things to consider as you navigate that journey.
Paul?
Yeah, likewise, I'm super excited to be here. I am a proud Hokie, graduated BIT, I would say almost 20 years ago. It's been a little bit of a journey. I've been working in data since that time, since I graduated, and we were talking, as Megan said earlier last week, and it's just interesting to think about when, that time, data was just like a back office, don't talk to people, just go sit in the back of the room and do this stuff. And now is at the forefront of everything we're doing, and this conference is obviously embodies that. So excited to be here and talk about my experience and how the data is shaping our future.
Thanks, Paul. And I'm Megan Akamasi. I work with Norfolk Southern. I'm a group vice president for our chemicals business unit, and I'm also a proud double Hokie. I know we've got a few of those in the audience. So to set the stage, I'll just say it doesn't really feel like that long ago that I was in your shoes, and probably some of you would say the same, but it's been over 20 years. And so with the context that we've gotten this morning about the shockwave of AI and what's coming, and if anyone has read any headlines, you know that about 24 companies just in the last 2 weeks alone have announced pretty massive layoffs. Unless AI was hallucinating, it told me it was about 100,000 jobs in the US, because yes, I went to AI to get the answer for that. And it also told me about 1/4 of them were somehow related to AI or restructuring due to automation and technology. So with that as a background, I'm sure there's some folks in the audience are really deeply thinking about what that means for workforce transformation and when they are about to enter the workforce. So Lee, I'll start with you. How would you say that AI is reshaping specifically those entry-level data analyst positions, and what would you tell the students to focus on as they look at their skill set?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I would just offer, I guarantee everyone in this room is using AI today, even if you don't recognize that you're using it. But naturally, corporations have all begun adopting at an enterprise level the use of technologies such as Copilot and ChatGPT. And these have significantly augmented the traditional types of functions that entry-level practitioners did. And it's how they learned, how we all learned growing up in our careers, and that's attending meetings, listening, taking notes. I can't tell y'all how much of an augmentation just having Copilot automatically take your notes. Now, with that said, there are still expectations that we have regardless if generative AI were happening or not. So when we are looking at entry-level candidates, we're looking for the full 360-degree practitioner. And what I mean by that is all of you in this room are going to be bringing skill sets that you have learned through school. However, we all need to be thinking and continuously learning in the workforce and outside of the workforce. So as you know, the group of panelists and I were preparing for today's discussion, I think we all settled on, we all look for the exact same thing in entry-level practitioners and what we expect of them, and that's curiosity. So you might have only learned a certain set of AI or analytic techniques while in your master's or undergrad degree program, but we would significantly encourage you to learn everything that you can, because we're looking for you all to bring fresh perspectives to augment what we believe how work should be getting done. We're looking for entry-level individuals to bring different perspectives and how you can use AI in your job to actually learn faster, be more efficient. That's just one thing I would note. I graduated in 2010, and we didn't have AI assistants to help summarize a 300-page, set of chapters you had to review in preparation for class. You now have that at your fingertips. So the accelerated learning is something that has definitely augmented what entry-level practitioners now have accessible to them, and that, to me, is a great gift that others in the earlier generations, we never had that. So think of that as a tool to keep in your toolbox to bring and learn rapidly in your first role.
Yes, go ahead.
And I love the idea about curiosity. I think that's something that we look for as well. And I'll just take it a little step forward. When you demonstrate curiosity by looking for problems, what we like to see in any employee is not just observing a problem, but actually diving in, identifying the problem, and offering solutions to help address the problem. And if you heard my talk this morning, it's all around the employees, even entry-level employees. You're defining the problems, the what's, and letting the whatever AI system do the hows. But the problems is in identifying and crisply identifying what the problem is a uniquely human activity. And that's something that's going to that'll differentiate you in the workplace. If you come to an employer, even in an interview, with questions about what you've researched about this company and some potential problems that you think you might be able to identify, you'll win them over. So demonstrate curiosity and just go a little step further. Look for some problems and how you would solve them.
I love that, and we're going to come back to that theme with a little bit of a lighthearted commentary from those of us who have done some interviews where AI was used successfully and also unsuccessfully, and we'll share those from the perspective of industry. I love, Lee, that you use the word augmenting, because I think that's really important. We are not trying to take all decision-making out of the workplace, as you just said, Keith. I wonder if you can build upon that, Keith, from your specific experience at AWS. What are you using AI, and how are you using it to augment the decision-making in the workplace? How is that helping you?
Well, we use it to conduct a lot of research, both internally and externally. And we use that to help formulate typically what we're working on is like, okay, how do we take technology and apply that to kind of business problems, customer problems? How do we show a customer how they can do things better, faster, cheaper, using AWS technology, right? And so a lot of that is researching the company, what they're thinking about doing, researching the technology. So there's a lot of research that goes in. Obviously, we do the meeting summarization, all that, which is very valuable. And where we're really going, honestly, right now is providing customer context. Any enterprise has various databases, emails, Slack, just meeting notes from all sorts of meetings that touch a customer from different angles. And it's always difficult to really provide a unified view of all that from a contextual perspective. If they call in with a problem or they just want to talk about how they take this next system and maybe modernize it, having the context to say, yeah, I got you, right? I really understand what you're doing without asking the same questions over again that they probably already talked to you about in different forums. So I think that's a big area that we're looking into, how to continue to build that kind of contextual, customer contextual capability using AI.
And I'm really excited about that as someone who's on the commercial side of the business, sales and marketing. I'd love every additional tidbit I could get about my customers.
Let's talk after this.
Yes, okay. I also heard Matt Welsh needs a CRM system. He shared that, so I think you guys have opportunities. Paul, so I'd like to turn to you. I think this is exciting because on the panel today we have industry represented, we have services represented, we have platforms represented, and we have consultancy represented on government and civilian and energy. So there's a lot of different perspectives outside. So from where you sit at Snowflake, how do you think companies can balance AI adoption with reskilling and workforce retention?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think Keith, started to kind of hit on this, and I can bring it forward a little bit as well. So the way I think about AI adoption for enterprises, and so Snowflake, for those that don't know, is an enterprise data and AI company that really tries to look at how do you bring all that data to a place where you can then harness it for insights in a very easy way. So my lens is much more focused on the enterprise and thinking about, the customers I serve are the biggest banks in the world, and how are they using AI and how do they balance that with their workforce. And I would say there's really, three things that I'm seeing is kind of a way this is moving forward. And again, I mentioned data is really the lifeblood of an organization, and AI is no different. AI without data and good quality data is going to be disastrous, or you're going to have hallucinations, you're going to have inaccurate information that's not going to be trustworthy. So the first part is really around reskilling your workforce to understand how to work with and aggregate data. So those skills like Python or SQL, just like getting data to be put into a place where you can start analyzing it and putting models on top of it is really kind of simple. And that's been going on for many years. The second part is really around the semantics, which I think you were talking about, Keith, around like how do you put these this layer of semantic metadata around your data so that your AI models understand how to, answer questions of it. Now we were talking about, an example of, you might have all these different data sets. You've got emails, you've got, your own internal systems. They have codes and elements that have been there for hundreds, 20, 30, 40 years. And AI is not going to know what that means. And so how do you take something that says DOB or DOB? You're like, what is a DOB? Well, it's a date of birth. And so when I ask a question of my internal system of my customer, what is the average age of my customer? It needs to know that age is related to this DOB field, and how do you make sense of that? And so there's this whole new industry or profession being, I think, going to come forward around semantic understanding of your data and metadata and something that's kind of how you augment the current workforce. And I think the third part, which has also been around for a long time, is how do you take that information and package it into something that's digestible so leaders can make decisions. And that is something that's going to be, in my experience or my opinion, irreplaceable with AI, is how do you take this amalgamation of information from all this stuff and package it and present it to leaders within your organization so they can make informed decisions. And the data has to be, and those insights, the data, the results has to be fact-checked and made sure that you understand where the data is coming from, how that decision was being made, what model was being used. And so I think those three things are changing, but also, again, augmenting the workforce that kind of is out there today within an enterprise.
So you mentioned fact-checking, and we had a great question from the audience earlier about fact-checking. I'm interested, and I'll start with you, Paul, on both the ethical considerations, but I'll also say just the smart considerations students and professionals should be making as it relates to their use of AI.
So I mean, fact checking is one. I think there's two or three things that really come to mind around how you think about your organization's data and being ethical and making good decisions. Before we get to the fact checking, I think the number one must adhere to is data within our organization is people have said it's the oil, data is this new oil, and so you don't want that getting out into the public. And so how do you decide what can get sent to a model? At least with Snowflake, all the models are brought into the organization, so the data's not being sent out, but really it's all about data privacy and security. So making sure you're thinking about, I'm not gonna upload a spreadsheet with PII, personal identifiable information, or credit card information and send it to ChatGPT because you've just now exposed your company to lawsuits. So that's one, just thinking about what am I sending? Is this the right thing I should be doing? The second is around just biases within models and how you can make a decision that may not be beneficial for your company based on what you're trying to do. And thinking about that. And I think the last is really around the fact checking and not just trusting something. Who knows where this model was trained? Who knows what it was trained on? Is it hallucinating? And making sure that you've dug into the details, you're curious, you're not just taking information that was presented to you and regurgitating it back. Having a story, having an understanding of asking why was this produced, how did it get produced, and then again, package that up so you can be a storyteller to go present that information back to leaders and make informed business decisions.
Thank you for that. That's a really broad answer. It covers a lot of areas. I also want to have a side note out there for people that are preparing for interviews. Lee, when we were talking last week, we shared some examples of really intelligent use of AI, and then some things we've seen some professionals do also in the interview process. Do you want to humor the audience here and share some do's and don'ts along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of us that use AI every day, after a certain period of time, you start to recognize others who are also using AI. So I would recommend, if you are leveraging AI to generate a draft of your resume, as an example, when in doubt, proofread everything. Leverage AI, but still make it your own. That is a big philosophy at Guidehouse. We endorse, we embrace the use of AI. However, we also look for authenticity. We look for differentiation, uniqueness. So one of the things that we have noticed over the course of the past year is naturally some applicants are using AI during interviews. And you would think they were fooling us, almost like it's a trick. So we can see their eyes following a prompt, right, as AI is generating responses to our interview questions. So Guidehouse, amongst other firms, have actually started to implement case studies or challenges for applicants to be able to work through as part of the interview process. So just keep in mind that while many employers are looking for and hiring AI and data scientists and analytic practitioners, using AI has a right time and place, just like anything else. So I would just always keep in mind that when you're interviewing, we're looking to hear from you and your individual expertise and opinions. We're not looking for a tool to speak or think on your behalf. So that's just a new experience for us as well. So we're adapting our own recruiting processes to be different, be more open to what we're looking for as well.
I will echo that from the industry side as well. We've had our first experience in the last rotation where we knew we were interviewing an AI person, and the percentage of those folks that make it to the next round is 0%.
Yeah.
But what I would love is for someone to have used AI to go through the last couple earnings reports for our company and understand what macro trends are evolving, and then think for themselves about how could I ask an intelligent question about that. But so thanks for the side story, but it's happening, and I'm sure we'll see
An uptick. I think we'll see more until we see less.
Yeah. I'm interested, okay, this is for all the panelists here. We're doing great on time, by the way, so everybody gets to answer this one. How has your own role evolved specifically with AI? If you think back what you were actually working on 2 years ago, 5 years ago, how is it different with the advent of AI? Keith?
Well, I've always been I've been in analytics for a while, and it starts with data, right, and making sure you have good data, trustworthy data. So that's been there's been with innovations in AI, particularly generative AI. It's even more important, I would say, not less important, that the data is trustworthy, and also the value of like private data, right? So the value of public data is basically de minimis. It's accessible to anybody, everywhere, at all times. And so there's no longer a value in having like somebody that knows how to search well, or to find public data. It's just there. And so the value of private data becomes more important and more of a differentiator for anybody, any company, any person. So kind of private data curation is a big focus of like how do we maximize the value of that private data. And then from just a pure kind of AI perspective, we spend a lot of time now kind of like thinking through how workflows should be kind of modernized with AI. And so, whereas before it was more focused on kind of elastic scaling or infrastructure as code, which are still very important, but now it's more about that semantic layer as well. Like we're extending more to that. So I'm spending more time up the stack of like from infrastructure up through applications to like impact. Like how does data and analytics impact a business problem? And spending more time in that layer, which is honestly where where the industry is going in general, right? We're kind of seeing a flattening of the value provided across the full kind of stack of like IT through application layer, where the value is now mainly up at the top, and that's where AI is, right? And so data, AI, and trying to figure out the crossroads of or the nexus of that for a particular customer. Spending a lot more time there than I have in the past.
Thanks.
There you go.
All right, Lee, how about you?
It's significantly changed. The past 2 years have been incredible working in industry and serving clients, as they have a lot of challenges and opportunities that they're looking to solve. And as easy as it is for all of us to talk about AI this, AI that, it's hard. It's not simple for organizations to simply deploy AI into their infrastructure, and they're looking for support. They have the same questions that anyone else does, but I think what's been incredibly rewarding in recent years is Data has never not been important, but it is now critical, and it's at the tip of everyone's tongue. So for folks that have worked in the data analytics and AI space, that's been around for decades. It's generative AI that is effectively net new for us all. So I look at it as, how is it changing us internal at the workforce at Guidehouse? We now have AI tools accessible at our fingertips. We have very strong guidance and policies for how we are to be leveraging those technologies, like not uploading data external to our firm, as an example. But also we're advising and supporting our own clients and figuring out how do they scale AI across an enterprise all the way down to the data source level, to the infrastructure level, to ultimately leveraging AI to solve business problems. And I still go back, as we were just having some internal discussions in advance of this, no one person out there has the crystal ball of what AI is going to look like in the future. And I don't know about y'all, but that to me is what keeps it incredibly fun in the working life, because every day is continuous learning, and we're doing that in support of our clients and growing throughout the course of our careers, which is super exciting.
All right, Paul, bring us home.
All right.
How are you doing it
Yeah.
at Snowflake?
So I'm pretty hands-on with customers. So I would say two things that come to mind. One is just, generally, like the answer is I'm just able to get information and products to my customers much more efficiently. So like either through, generative AI being, hey, someone asked me a question like, how does this compare to that? You can get detailed analysis. We use Gemini at Snowflake on using Gemini to just like get like a 20-page report, if you wanted to, and deep research on, comparing different tools. So you just get information much quicker rather than having to go do that yourself. So that's one way of just having kind of like your own personal analyst just helping you get access to information that wasn't there before. And I also, I come from a technical background, being hands-on developer for many years. And, I don't do that much work today. But I have, obviously I've done that in the past. And so instead of having to say, someone asked me, hey, can we do this dashboard? Instead of saying, hey, can you go work on this thing and kind of hand it off and it take about a week to do, we use Cursor AI, which is a kind of like a VS Code with AI built in, using Claude, and you just say, hey, can you build this dashboard for me? And it's not perfect, but 80% of it's built within 2 minutes. And then you just got to go and customize that last 20%. And so I can get things done for my customers much faster and can focus on higher level activities, having conversations that, would have less time for. And that's where in business, so much of what we do is relationship based. And so having more time for relationships, less time for kind of hands-on behind the keyboard stuff is really, I'd say, where I'm kind of shifting.
Just a note on that. So I'm pushing, at my team, we work with customers, and I'm pushing them just like, so instead of like going to a meeting and hearing requirements from a customer, then going back and coming back to another meeting with an architecture, and then going back and then coming back with a demo of what's possible, I'm pushing them everything in the meeting. Listen to the requirements, start documenting them, start creating an architecture using Gen AI on the spot. Obviously proof check it, show it, start creating the demos in the meeting, so that in a 2-hour meeting, I can not only just hear the requirements, I can show them an actual working prototype. That's the goal, that's where we're heading. That shrinks that engagement cycle down and actually iterates faster with customers.
It's pretty wild. You can just give a less than a paragraph prompt to Cursor and say, I did this as a test. We use Streamlit. So Streamlit's like a Python, visual, dashboard thing. And just hey, I want to have a customer CRM dashboard with this, and the other thing. And within, I'm not kidding, a minute, you have 10 different pages of bar charts, graphs, things, again, would have taken, weeks, months before, you can have within seconds. And again, it's not perfect. It's 70, 80% of the way there. But you've got a working prototype demo of what something could, art of the possible, look like. And that just changes how you interact with your customers, because you can show them visually something that, having, again, these long conversations can be, the cycle time is just reduced to minutes.
Well, and I can tell, Keith, you practice what you preach, because I remember at a prior Day for Data, I think you were using Gen AI to create the presentation that you were giving almost real time.
Yep.
And I, as someone who's made a lot of PowerPoint presentations in my day, thought, now that is something I could use. So I think the message that I heard from industry, platform, services, consultancy across the board is, it is a technology that is allowing leaders to remove themselves from lower value tasks, which is going to free up time for higher value tasks. And it's gonna free up time to build the relationships. It's gonna free up time to give back, like what we just heard Mehul talk about, and how people care. AI can't care, people can care, and I think if we put AI in the hands of the people that can care, we are gonna get some incredible outcomes. And I even made a believer out of my dad. He's almost 80 years old. He may or may not have mentioned that he was gonna be drafting a speech, let's say at a wedding. And I was like, Dad, I can help you with this. And in about 30 seconds after he gave me a few prompts, here's my themes, I sent it over email. And he was, of course, blown away. And what it did is it gave him the time to then put the caring behind, here's how I'm gonna tell this story about what you mean to me. And I just think the power of AI to help us care more and get towards positive outcomes is a great story. And while some of what we heard this morning was slightly terrifying with, in the wrong hands, let's make sure we get it in the right hands. And that's why we're here to give back and to share what we've heard from industry. We've still got about 12 or 14 minutes, so would happily entertain some questions from the audience if you want to step up to the mic for anybody.
While they're waiting, I'll give one more example.
Okay.
Please come up to the mic. But so like we do account planning as part of our job, and so that's where we're kind of spend a lot of time on a document, basically. And you're like, it's a lot of time for a document. And so I'm challenging all the teams, instead of like writing the account plan, how about you just create the data infrastructure that feeds an LLM to actually create the account plan for you. And then as more data comes in, it can actually compare, are you aligned with the account plan? Are you making progress on it? Which I'm challenging them to do this, because it's like writing account plans, if anybody's ever done them, it's just a big time suck, and then you put it on a shelf, basically. And then you review it once, maybe, throughout the year. Anyway, another example of trying to like...
I do want to talk to you about that. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, do we have some questions?
Hi, thank you so much for the amazing session. I just had one question. So we are witnessing an industry rat race of developing and improving and implementing state-of-the-art AI systems. My question was, do you all think that will these AI systems stand the test of time? And if yes, how would the future of AI look like once these systems are implemented?
And was that to somebody? Anybody in particular?
Oh, no, it's open to all. Yeah.
Okay. You want to try? I mean, I can do it. I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that, state of the art is going to continue. It's going to continue. It's going to march along. So we're nowhere close to it's going to, in 6 months, there's going to be a new state of the art, foundation model. AI assistants have more stickiness, because that's where you're connecting like an LLM as the brain with tools, plans, and memory, right? And you can maybe switch out the brain with the next foundation model over time, or not, but the actual workflow that it orchestrates will endure. And honestly, what we're finding a little bit is the agent itself doesn't have to be the smartest agent. It just has to understand, the input that you need to accomplish, and then know how to call the various tools to actually get the data, and then summarize that back. And so it's more of a limited scope. It's not like trying to solve world hunger by having the best the best model that knows everything about everything. It just needs to know enough about your problem. And so I think the actual agent system will endure, and we'll be swapping out like the brains over time if we need to, because it'll be a business decision on cost, right? Because the state-of-the-art models are always going to cost the most, right? But you may not need that to accomplish a lot of tasks. If you're going to do something 1,000,000 times and it's fairly easy, you may want to swap in a lower cost model that does the job, right? So that's, I guess, between if you're taking your kid to school, you don't need a Ferrari to do that, right?
It'd be nice though, right?
It would be nice, yeah.
The only thing I would want to add there is I just couldn't agree more. I think it is going to just continue to rapidly mature, and then you're training LLMs off of such richer data because it's only getting smarter and smarter. But I also just like to bring everything back to, there's a lot of decisions that AI are enabling, but a human still has to make a decision. So you can be provided the most perfect plan for implementation, but a human has to say yes. It's always a people business that we all work in. So that's always, we're all human, right? We're confused half the time. AI is very intelligent, but there's always that human element, and I think that's going to keep us in line with AI and really push back on when is it the right time to make a decision out of even the most advanced AI.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Aaron. I'm an AI engineer at Virginia Tech, and I've been talking a lot with ChatGPT and Gemini about that someday AI will be authorized to make decisions. And I'm actually on one of the AI design teams, and we're actually debating on how much autonomy we will allow our AI robot.
And the question is, like, do we agree with that, or what?
Yeah, because I heard somebody say that AI is not going to be making decisions, which I don't fully agree yet.
Yep.
I'll just give a quick example of where this is coming up in a real-world setting outside of Guidehouse, but more in terms of how clients are thinking about it from the state government side, right? There are certain elements of a workforce's data, of an individual's job, as an example, that is to make a benefits-related decision. As an example, right? Will this person receive X benefit or not? And while AI is being used even today to make a recommendation, there is a really it's a theory debate right now around certain decisions that AI should be able to make a decision off of, and then those that they want to leverage AI to make a recommendation, but a human in the loop to always be that final decision maker, which really goes to what we're seeing and having a lot of conversations in industry around ethical use of AI. I like to think of this as like the new great debate. I don't know that I've seen anyone have a definitive answer, but there are a multitude of different opinions that exist today around that exact question, and often we're seeing governmental, federal, or state policy actually dictating that the human in the loop is still always and forever going to be that final, ultimate decision maker.
I think it probably comes around to risk and who's going to own the risk.
Yep.
And so, ultimately, a human has to own the risk. You can delegate that risk to an AI agent. And so you can maybe, like, for instance, autonomous driving, right? So that's there are decisions that the AI agents are making, every second as it's driving, if it's driving a vehicle. Ultimately, though, like, the vehicle itself is not going to accept the risk if it crashes. It will be either the driver or it'll be the company providing the software, and that's still being worked out right now, which is why level 5 autonomous vehicles is still not able to be achieved right now.
We should go to San Francisco and take a Waymo.
Correct. Well, that's not level 5 though, because there's still a human that's able to intervene.
Yeah.
And so the risk is still with Waymo, right?
Yeah.
And so ultimately it comes down to decision making is going to be a risk calculus that a human's got to own. They may delegate that, but ultimately they got to accept it if something goes wrong.
And I think what we're saying is there's probably different decisions within an organization. Like there's automated processes today, automated underwriting, right? There's automated, loan, but there's certain things where you are regulated to have a decision maker, and then also, as you move up. I mean, can you imagine a CEO just saying, our next year, annual plan and budget is going to be something that was generated by AI? I mean, you need to have someone really thinking through and questioning, external factors that are not coming from your data about, macroeconomic and put together plans and make decisions based on historical experience. So I think there's probably low-level decisions that will be automated and are automated today. And
So this goes into like error. So how do we make sure that the AI isn't hallucinating or errors when it's making its decisions?
So-
Go ahead, you first, and then I have a
Oh, go ahead, go
I have a
ahead.
real world example.
You go.
So in the world of moving trains, which I work for Norfolk Southern, been there 22 years, we have the same gauge track we've always had. We move freight cars with locomotives. It's essentially, right? That's what we do. But we are using AI to determine when that train is passing through at 60 miles per hour. 1,000 pictures are taken for every rail car to determine what defects might be critical enough to flag for a 24/7 desk to say that needs a stop, it needs a critical stop right now, or it needs a stop in an hour from now, or it's in compliance, but fix it next time you can inspect it.
That's actually what my design team is doing. Are you going to be outside after
I will
this?
be outside, come find
Okay,
me.
we'll talk.
Great. Great, thank you for the question.
Sorry, I wanted to record for my boss just in case. So from an industry, I'll get down here. From an industry side, I work as a marketing analyst for a nonprofit. And so pretty large scale nonprofit, like 160 million a year in revenue. So they're wanting to make those pivots that might be critical for us, but resources, even in the for-profit space, right, resources are low. And so when you're thinking about driving organizational KPMs in revenue, or especially for a donor-based company for retention, what are some of the things that you think executives would need to be thinking about in how to pivot and utilize AI as far as, kind of making sure that we stay on top of our donor base and different things?
Yeah, I would just recommend, we do this at Guidehouse. We see this happen quite a bit, is there's a capacity constraint in a lot of organizations who are naturally, they know they want to get started. The question is how to get started. And it's not a simple question, as there's not often unlimited budget to just go procure a bunch of AI technology. But what I would recommend is even getting started by having the conversation with your colleagues is a step in the right direction. We like to look at AI from a use case or a business problem standpoint. And as you're evaluating what is going to be the most effective solution for, as an example, perhaps your nonprofit company that you work for, looking at it from a couple of different lenses. That could be value of leveraging it, feasibility, and risk. And looking at those three across the board and really determining what's going to achieve the greatest return. And you might look at that from a quantitative or qualitative standpoint, but really understanding how you are maximizing a return for your company. And that could be efficiency, meaning you have limited capacity given constrained headcounts, and wanting to leverage something like a Copilot or a ChatGPT and try and gain a certain amount of time back in your day each day. So it's definitely a conversation to have and really understand how that's best for y'all to scale. But curious if others have.
Well, I think we're at time. Otherwise, they might start playing the Oscar music for us.
Okay.
But I know we'll be
be out there.
around, so if you've got more questions, Paul, Lee, Keith, thank you for joining the panel today. Appreciate your insights.
Thanks for hosting us.
Thanks.